been around long enough. You've seen the downturns of technology, and we've always said that being a technologist is feast or famine. There are times where you can go out, find a new position, basically write your own ticket because of the skill set that you have. And there are other times where you can't have enough skills on your resume to find a job. So, there are these ebbs and flows in the industry. Welcome to the Forward Slash, where we lean into the future of IT. I'm your host, Aaron Chesney, with my beautiful co-host, James Carmen. Today, we don't have a special guest. It's just going to be us talking about the year in review. So all the goods and the bads that happened in 2024. So, it's amazing how quickly this year has gone by. It seems like we were just at the beginning of the year. Just maybe 11 months ago.
It does.
I did a little experiment the other day where, I opened up the window, I threw a clock out just to see if I could make time fly. It didn't work so well. Kind of crashed and burned.
Oh, man.
So,
man, I'm glad I'm having 2 weeks off here soon.
Yeah, you need a break from these.
I need a break from these. This is time flies. Wow, man! I remember my grandfather he was like the OG of dad jokes. Like he would have like, what was one of the ones we'd be like, we're driving across the river or near some body of water. Like, did you see that fish jump? It must have weighed, that thing weighed 7.5 pounds. And he was like, well, how do you know? It had scales on it. He was the OG, man. My grandfather.
I love it.
My kids get sick of it. I reuse his jokes. Like, you drive by a cemetery, you're like, well, what kind of people they bury there? Thinking like, veterans or something like that. And then they're like, dead ones.
Yeah. My favorite cemetery one that I always use is like, you know why they put fences around that place, don't you? Because people are just dying to get in.
It's awful. It's awful. Love it. Okay, so
it's been an interesting year.
Yeah, hasn't it?
We started this year, so that was, hello.
Yeah.
Here we are, right?
Yeah,
2024, the introduction of the Forward Slash.
Yeah, so you mark your calendars. You were here for this. Like our listeners were here at the beginning of this momentous occasion. So.
I remember when. So some of the folks that we've had on, we've had some interesting people on from a lot of different walks of life, and there's been a lot of learning that surprised even us. And we've been around the block maybe more than once, right? Ryan Wilson was one. I did learn something that I have to remove from my vocabulary. We're not user testing. We're not testing the user. It's usability testing. I'm like, yeah, that's a fair point, right?
That's
we're
fair,
we're not testing users.
Ryan's one of those guys. I feel like I learn something every time I talk to him, and I have to like unlearn something because he's a pretty insightful dude.
He's very thought provoking.
Yeah.
He has forced me into like some of my own research channels with some of his things. Another guy that is very thought provoking and always has me like looking at different perspectives of a problem is Jonathan Thompson, who we came and we talked about QA types of things. And one of the things that was really kind of flipped a mental switch in my head to where I had to go back and go, that's a good point. I didn't really think about it that way, was the importance of behavior testing. Especially if developers are doing it, it's like, well, if you're already kind of doing a lot of that testing already, so why would you do it twice? I'm like, oh, yeah, that's kind of a good point. And I kind of saw that too when I was doing it the right way. I'm like, well, this is kind of redundant.
The theory is that you're supposed to be thinking about the software from a user's perspective. It kind of forces you into that mindset. However, why don't you just do that for all your testing then?
And that's what I push. I push my teams to do that. I'm like, don't think about it like you're trying to solve a problem. I'm trying to think about it like how you want it to be used.
Yeah, I think from when it comes to testing, I'm one of those purists. I'm 100% code coverage guy, and like, but I have to like kind of check myself and like because I preach to everybody else about outcomes. Focus on the outcomes. Like I preach that, but when it comes to testing, like if you really focus on the outcomes, are you getting diminishing returns for some of the stuff? Now, some of the code coverage thing for me, it's more of a means to an end. The byproduct is clean code. When you force yourself to have to make every bit of your code testable, you typically have cleaner code, more modular, and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, it's you get into these practices like, well, we have to do BDD tests, or we have to do this test, or we have to do that. Well, but do you? What is it helping you? How is it giving you better confidence about your code and that it's performing the way you want?
Yeah, and those are one of the things that I've always found is that when you have something like you always have to that that predicate turns out to be a red flag. Because if you're always doing something the right way, you're not thinking about it anymore. You're just like, well, I'm doing it because I have to. And that's not something that you want out of your team. You want them to be free thinking. You want them to think outside the box, push the limits, find the next best thing. And if you have statements or rules like that in place, like we always have to do this, and like then you don't get the why. Why are we doing it this way? Well, just
Yeah.
because somebody said I have to.
Then the measurement becomes a goal, and it's not just a measurement any longer, and then it starts to lose its utility.
Right. Who'd you like that we had on this year?
Well, I mean, I think of Eric. We've known Eric Prescott for a long time, but I did not know. But Eric and I are kind of kindred spirits. I'm new to the world of like we talked about GTD, getting things done with Eric a lot when he was on, and that's kind of a new habit for me that I'm trying to make more part of my life. But yeah, I love geeking out about that stuff, productivity stuff with Eric. He's been doing that stuff for a long time, so he's always fun to talk to about that. I really enjoyed that episode.
Yeah, my wife's been on my case to get things done. Um,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I've
So
had a
I
honey-do list for a long time.
yes, honey do this, honey do that. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
that's always. And I actually was thinking that this might be a good way of tracking the honeydew list and having that kind of in and inbox type thing. It's like, okay, yeah, if there's things you want me to do, get them in the inbox and let's work through them and do that kind of thing. So I've actually been rethinking kind of some of my personal organization around the getting things done methodologies and some of that.
So
So
some of
the
the
stuff.
tools
Yeah, some of those
that are
tools.
some of the tools that are used for GTD. They have that ability to like, and I shared that with my own wife. I said, hey, here's an email address where if you send it, it not only does it go to my email inbox, it literally will monitor my email. Um, Actually, it's more of I think the email just goes straight to my GTD inbox. So you send an email to this specific email address, and it knows it's linked to your software, so it can put something in your inbox like your GTD inbox, not your email. So, but I would say be careful with that because you can get a little overloaded there, and part of the whole process of going through your inbox, you have to know what's going on, right? You have to know the context around what you were talking about in order to categorize things. So, I would do that sparingly.
One of the interesting things that came out of this year with some of the guests that we've had on, like David Imhoff, Matt Coatney. I
Hmm.
always got to check myself when I say that to make sure I don't say Cottney, just
Yeah,
because of the English Cottney accent.
I
But
think
yeah,
that's Cockney
Cockney.
accent.
It is
Yes,
Cockney,
it's
but
Cockney.
it
Yes, but yeah,
reminds
I'm
me of
with
that
you.
when I see it written.
Right,
But it's
same with me.
Coatney. So Matt Coatney, Erica Price, Holly Laveling, and Rich Schramm, who we just interviewed, in that technology is leaching into all these different domains where we don't think about technology. Things like the law offices, something that
Yeah.
is traditionally we're thinking about leather-bound books
I
and
have many.
I have many leather-bound books
Yes.
and stacks of paper and bankers boxes of files and that kind of thing. And now they're using technology to riffle through that kind of stuff to expedite their stuff with its own caveats. don't be
Absolutely.
don't be the AI lawyer. Uh, that's citing cases that never existed.
Yeah, those hallucinations will get you.
Right.
Yeah,
And
it's even as technologists. I mean, we know this is, and I said this just the other day. I was meeting with a client. It's like these companies. It's been going on for a while, but it's like it's now. It seems like it's really getting into those corners that had been able to avoid it for long enough. But it's like companies are waking up and realizing I'm no longer a Flugelbinder company, but I'm a technology company that facilitates the selling of Flugelbinders, right? Like
right.
everybody's a technology company, but there's like this side hustle that we do that's actually the thing that makes money. But yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, companies like Yum that
Hmm.
they're dealing with food product. Most people don't associate technology with food, but we've proven there's a lot of technology behind the scenes there that they do a lot of testing and thought around the experience behind the counter and how they streamline their processes, which is pretty interesting.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things I love about this podcast is, we're able to leverage our network for what we do for a living, right? We're consultants, so we come across different companies, different domains, different problems, all these different really cool things, and I'm always fascinated by that stuff when I meet with new clients or prospective clients, and I'm just geeking out, like, well, tell me about this, and you just start to listen to what how deeply they think about their world and what they do as a business when you interact with your businesses that you interact with on a day-to-day basis, you kind of take it for granted. But to do what I do, what I have to do, I have to help dig into that stuff, and it's fascinating to take a deep dive into all these different industries and understand how deeply they think about the thing that it is that they do for money. So to be able to bring those experiences and those unique aspects and unique problems to bear and share with our listeners, I think is really cool.
And speaking about taking things for granted, our episode with Ocean Eller was very much focused on how those developers that are coming up in the system today take a lot of the groundbreaking stuff that we did the hard way for granted. Things like having to write a bunch of boilerplate code or your own collections, that whole DIY of coding that you had to do in order to make things work before there were all these libraries and IDEs. I remember like my first programming thing we had it was VI versus Emacs was the big debate, right? Which are both just plain text editors. They're not fancy IDEs. So all those things that you get for free when you start using an IDE were things we had to do manually back in the day and grow our own solutions to make our lives easier just so that we could write code, get it compiled, and get it onto a system.
Yeah, I do worry about it. We touched on this a little bit when we were talking to Ocean. Man, he was a fascinating dude. Um, but like the whole aspect of that, our current climate, our current the way we interact with the world, we're very dopamine addicted, right? We need that quick fix, quick hit, right? And we're very much like every little ding on your phone, every little pop up notification, all of those bing dopamine, right? Um, that delayed gratification, like that's going to be harder to come by, and that's kind of what it takes to do that DIY, that tinkering mindset, is that you can't always have that immediate gratification. You got to really grind to get to that aha moment or whatever, right? I
And
do
it
worry about that.
may it may actually take you several iterations of attempts to get there too. It's
Hmm.
more the Edison model of coding, right? It's
Yeah, absolutely.
several experiments before you finally get one that is like, yes, that's the one. And even at that, after you put it in practice, you may be like, I thought it was the one, but not quite.
Mm.
Right? And it's like, yes, it works in this environment, but when I move it to this environment with this kind of load, it breaks down. But at least you have something to go back to and go, okay, so where do I need to tweak this? Where do I need to make the changes? And you at least you have, instead of just a lump of clay, you have kind of a rough shape that you
Mm.
can mold
Yeah.
and start to refine. And that process is very tedious. And I
Mhm.
think, those that have a creative mindset to where they think about problems in that kind of space, that or they have like those creative outlets as their hobbies and things like that, end up being more patient with that process and not looking for the immediate ding, right?
Mhm. Yeah,
They
absolutely.
can slow down and think about those. So getting back to our year in review, let's talk about some fails and successes of the year. This one, this this may turn out to be a bit of an unbalanced list.
It's been a rough year. I mean, I'd say the starting off would be like just the technology job market in 2024 was kind of abysmal. It was rough. It was a rough year for technologists. A lot of folks out of work for a long time, and so it's been very troublesome for a lot of folks.
And I've heard a lot of blame being put on AI, but as we've discovered through our conversations about AI for the year, it's like, no, AI is not replacing people's jobs. It's just not there. So
No, I think it
it,
was
it
it was
wasn't
I think
that.
we overbought. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think as an industry we overbought on talent. For what's needed right now. And I think we went through a little bit of a lull as far as like the need, the whole market, the entire global economy slowed a little bit, and there wasn't that need for all that talent at the moment.
And we see this as a cycle in technology. If you've been around long enough, you've seen the downturns of technology, and we've always said that being a technologist is feast or famine. Um, there are times where you can go out, find a new position, basically write your own ticket because of the skill set that you have. And there are other times where you can't have enough skills on your resume to find a job. So, there are these ebbs and flows in the industry. And I think it's just at this time we're in a bit of a low, but I think we're going to see an uptick fairly quickly. I don't think this was as bad as the dot-com boom that happened, more around the turn of the
Turn of the
century.
century.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, that makes you sound old. It's like back in my day.
Back in the aughts. Yeah.
I think it was ought to.
Aught two was a tough year. Uh,
Uh,
I don't know why I went like, I don't even know what that accent is that I was just doing there. But yeah,
yeah,
but anyway, yes.
right.
Yeah.
So some of the other things that didn't go so well. Apple had a rough year. I think they're struggling to find their footing without their captain at the helm.
They've been struggling for a little bit there, but I have to say, I'm an Apple stockholder, and I'm still doing okay from a
The-
stockholder perspective.
well, that's good because between the iPhone 16 and some of the bad publicity around the iPad Pro and this thing called the Vision Pro that didn't really take off anywhere, they they had some rough releases this year.
I really hadn't seen a lot of, and I'm sure different markets are different especially with the Vision Pro. Um, it, I had not seen it very often, and I was just doing some Christmas shopping the other day, and I went into the Apple store, and there were these people just sitting at the table, pinching in the middle of the air, like and really you just look at them, you're just laughing, like what is this? This is just do I want this to be how I interact with a computer? I don't know if I do,
Well,
at
and
least not in public.
the biggest complaint was that the battery life and with the weight of it, it put a strain on the head to where it had about a 30-minute use uh, window.
Yeah.
And if it's being sold as a productivity tool, unless you're going to work in 30-minute increments, and take a break. It's it's not it's not there,
It's
right?
not your all day computing platform right now.
Right.
No, I agree. And it's
However,
you don't want to tether either, right? Like that would be awful.
uh, I I have tethered my Oculus Quest, uh, and it's not too bad. I mean, I'm tethered with my headset already, so it's not too bad. At least it would allow me to stand, but I have a problem with the full immersion of only being in a work environment, I guess. Which is strange because I used to work in a cubicle, which is basically the same thing. Um, so I may have to in 2025 something for me to look forward to is embracing the virtual office because Steve Barrett-Daly, who we talked to a few episodes ago, i- he's trying to sell me on this. He does this. Uh, I think it's called Immersed, where he's got like he can virtually move his screens around and kind of lay out his spot, and he doesn't have to sit. Like he can stand and walk around and still do his work stuff.
I think it definitely. We talked about it. I think it was the last episode we did. I think we talked about that. I do think it would be fun to be able to interact with computers in that, like, kind of that holographic, that augmented virtual XR world. I think that'll be cool. And again, I mentioned it last time. I think of Jarvis. If we can interact like that and have like use our limbs in a way that's not more natural as a human. Sorry, my dogs are going crazy. I think that would be really cool.
Um, so I think like the big topic for 2024 has been AI. AI has been like the linchpin of tech talks all year long, and some places have had not so good a luck of trying to market their AI. One is uh, was an AI device called Rabbit, and this thing was just a total dud. It was supposed to be a personal AI assistant type device, and just didn't have the battery life, didn't have good usability. The camera was kind of shoddy on it, so that that kind of went nowhere. To throw a little bit bigger name out there, McDonald's had tried some AI ordering, which led to a customer continually getting chicken McNuggets on their order, even though they asked to not have chicken nuggets on their order, and ended up with something like 264 nuggets on their order, which was great entertainment value, but not so happy if you're trying to order a Big Mac. It,
No, I said
so
not nuggets.
just
And,
not
oh,
nuggets.
yes, 12 more nuggets.
Right.
Sure.
I think some of us have had that with our in-car voice recognition. I had that just the other day. I'm like, do this, and it does something completely different. I'm like, no, 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 don't call them. I don't want to talk to them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So, and another one that was AI based was this AI pin. This was supposed to be something that was like a wearable AI device that did like, projections onto the palm of your hand on certain information and had uh, different things that you could ask. It was another one of these AI assistant type things. And that kind of went nowhere because there was problems in with the projection. You couldn't see it in certain lights, and just the feedback wasn't great. There was a uh, time delay that was not great. So yeah, another not so good launch.
Yeah, I remember seeing that and I was like, I couldn't like convince myself to even get excited about that product at all.
No.
I think we it seems like we're continuously chasing Star Trek, like the
I
little thing
know.
on your little, like that kind of thing. Like, do I press it and talk
Yep.
to the bridge kind of thing? It's just not, eh, I don't know.
I don't think anybody's gonna wear that. Right. It's got to be. it's got to be something that is more inconspicuous, I think. You know, I think like an AI watch would be possibly like a good route because you can cover that up and more like the a risk communicator type device. And I think that's a good extension of like the smartwatches that we have now. I think expanding on that, and I think we'll probably see that smartwatches are going to start getting some AI tech into them, especially around health and fitness, right? I think we're going to see a growth in that segment, AI for health and fitness tied to smartwatches, and
Yeah, I
probably
think that the watch is going to surprise us as being a really big part of our life. I love my Apple Watch. I like to run, so that's one of my favorite things. It's one of my favorite devices I have is my Apple Watch. But like, maybe if we can get into like holograms with the watch, where like it can display, like it has a holographic display out of the
yeah,
top of the watch. Like, I'm thinking like Master Chief sitting there talking to Cortana on his
right,
wrist. And he's like, I think that would be, if we could get there, that would be
yeah.
fantastic.
Even if you could project it onto something like
Yeah, that'd be
like
cool.
a side window or stuff like that, which I have seen technologies out there that are doing like glass projection type stuff. So if we can
Hmm.
get to that level of where we can get larger display from a smaller device, I think that'll work pretty well. So let's talk about some of the big names that had some big flops. Elon Musk had a couple. He had this vacuum loop thing, and I'm not sure that's the official title of it, but it's this transport loop that's supposed to work on vacuum, like a male a male vacuum tube that's supposed to transport people around at
You mean like when you go to the bank and
yeah
that
the
kind of thing? Okay. Yeah,
yep.
yeah. Yeah. Okay.
So moving people around at speeds of like 600 miles per hour, it was promised to be here in 2024, but that project is having trouble with engineering issues, and creating a vacuum that large is proving to be problematic. The cyber
That
taxi
sucks.
release, that was supposed to be an autonomous taxi, that one also flopped this year, was lackluster. I'm still hopeful that that one's still on the drawing board and coming around. That one's more of a total recall reference to the uh, the Robo Taxi. Uh, then Netflix, oof,
This was awful.
the Tyson Paul fight,
Oh my goodness.
and Netflix fails under load. So not great for Netflix on that one. And with them having the NFL contracts, people are concerned that Super Bowl Sunday may be a repeat of the Tyson Paul fight. So hopefully they are scrambling to get their numbers up so that they're able to support the expected traffic for Super Bowl Sunday.
Well, it's like they took too long to scale up, because I know that the computing power is out there, right? So,
Right, yeah. I mean,
but it did eventually, like by the time the big fight came, I mean, I think there was very little disruption once the fight itself. I know at least where I was, my experience was that I did watch it, and once the fight started, there was very little of that. But like leading up to the fight, you could see like Twitter blew, or sorry, X blew up like crazy. I
mhm.
was watching it, and it was trending, and everyone's like, "Come on, Netflix, get their stuff together." And of course, you got these. Everybody knows software engineering at that point. They know everything about how to scale, video
Oh yes,
streaming
everybody's an
services.
expert
Everybody
when
knows.
things break down, right?
It's like when the gamers talk about, "Oh, come on, whoever Riot Games, fix your net code." Like that's what they call it. Like you fix your net code. I'm like, man, what are you talking about? Like I don't know if you've ever
Netcode.
seen that, but the gamers do that too. They know, they obviously know how to develop these games better.
Well, in when so I do a lot of multiplayer online experiences when they're like, "Oh, the server's laggy." I'm like, "It's not the server, dude. The rest of us have no lag whatsoever. That's your system that can't keep up. Your network connection is junk. That's the problem." Uh, But speaking of, big outages and problems, CrowdStrike, how awful was that?
Man, I was traveling at that time and I dodged a bullet because I just like I think one of my flights got canceled, not because of that. It was on my way out to Chicago. I was going to Chicago and my flight got canceled. I just decided to drive it, and then on my way home is when they were having all that issue. I'm like, man, I'm glad I'm in my truck and not trying to get through an airport today.
Right? Yeah, that was for me living through Y2K. That CrowdStrike outage was what I was expecting Y2K to be.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It was awful. It was really bad. And I mean, I think it was like they rolled out an update without testing it, kind of thing. Is that the
Yeah,
essence of what
there's
happened,
there's
right?
your QA is important, people. Let's get on that soapbox again because
uh,
test your stuff,
yeah,
please. Because that's the kind of stuff that can happen. And even though you think it's a minor change, oh, I don't need to test it. I only changed one line of code. Oh yeah, look what
famous last words.
right. Look what one
Yeah.
line of code can do.
Uh-huh.
So, anyways, uh, let's talk about some successes. There were a
Yes.
few, and we have alluded to one of them already, which is AI everywhere. Right, the AI boom. It everybody knows what AI is in some of the things it's doing, not everything that it's doing. There's a lot of AI stuff, coming out and being included in things, uh, especially like in your Google searches, your Bing searches, your Amazon, and uh, content generation, and all this kind of stuff. So we're definitely seeing not
Not
EIEIO.
EIEIO. Not that. No, that's not what we're seeing.
AI is golly, I why was I named as a host of the show?
I don't.
Maybe
We're questioning it every day, every time. Yeah.
uh, it- the with AI getting into everything that we're doing now, it's definitely becoming part of our lives, and I think that was a big success. There's been some horror stories around, but with any technology, you're going to have good and bad. But I think mostly the AI uh, pieces have been positive.
Yeah.
So I think that's good.
Yeah. I think it's and I've talked about this. I think we talked about this on the podcast a couple episodes. But like AI, a lot of the use cases that are coming out, they've been around for a while, and the technology would be able to support it before. But it just wasn't like, and I think you mentioned it earlier was it's now like a household name type of a thing, right? Like I was at the dentist this morning, and the person cleaning my teeth was like, we had a continuing education class for dentistry, and it was about AI and how we're going to use AI in dentistry. So I think
Wow.
it's pretty cool that yeah. So they're using it to like analyze the X-rays and see things that maybe the human eye might not be able to see on a dental X-ray. It's able to actually perceive it better than the human can. So it's pretty cool. Um, but I think that's the kind of stuff that I do consider a success for AI is that people are actually they're applying AI and saying, okay, that is a tool in my tool belt that we can bring to bear on this problem. Not every problem. It shouldn't be for every problem. It doesn't apply for everywhere, but they are absolutely reaching for that tool in their tool belt more often, probably more often than they need to, but it's there. So I am happy about that we're seeing a lot of innovation in using machine learning, AI, those sort of things. That I'm very happy about.
Well, in just so that rumors don't get started, we're not saying AI is going to replace your hygienist. So,
No,
right, I don't want AI in my mouth doing stuff.
no. I don't think I want an AI scraping my teeth. I don't think that would be.
Although, yeah, robotic hip replacement is got a much better recovery rate, so maybe it is something that we could see.
Or maybe if you had AI powered nanobots that would just go and eat the plaque off your teeth, and you never have to go to the dentist again. You just mouthwash with these nanobots, and then just you just spit them out. And I just made up an invention right now.
Yeah. let me know
Do you
how
like
that
it?
let me know how that nanobot thing comes out.
It worked in
Um,
Big Hero 6 perfectly.
right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Um, one of the, speaking of, little bots, bigger bots, autonomous
Mm,
driving
yeah.
has made some advances in 2024. So we're getting closer and closer to having the auto trucks and taxis and self-driving cars. So lots of improvements made there to where the infrastructures are getting in place, and now they're just expanding autonomous drive areas in like California. So I know we have here in Michigan, we have what they call blue lanes, which are meant for autonomous driving. So those are they're coming. They're coming. We're not there yet. We still don't have the hover cars yet, but
We'll get
that
them.
we were supposed to have.
Others, I mean, the air taxi thing was there's been some advancements in that sort of stuff this year as well. I think that would be kind of cool. Although I don't know. I mean, I am worried about the skies being kind of just the wild wild west when it comes to these drones and everything flying around. If you can't, we have roadways when it's only in two dimensions, we can kind of control where you're going to drive. But when you go full 3D, now it's crazy.
Yeah. Well, and speaking of full 3D drones, drone
Oh
entertainment has been a big success this year.
yeah.
We've seen amazing things being done with drones carrying LEDs and in mass quantity, doing amazing 3D art in the sky.
Hmm.
It's really cool use of technology.
Absolutely, yeah. That's going to be from an entertainment perspective. That's going to be part of how we entertain ourselves for many years to come. We may do away with like fireworks, and it'll just be replaced with these drone light shows. Although in America, we kind
Yeah.
of like to blow stuff up.
Yeah, you got to have the boom.
Yeah,
Otherwise, it's
yeah.
just like watching fireworks on TV, which is kind of
Oh,
meh.
that's awful. Yeah. Although I like to do that just to avoid the crowd. We have a
Right,
fireworks show here in town in September, and I'll watch it on TV because I don't like dealing with. There's like a gazillion people down there on the river. I ain't going to do that.
right. Uh, another success in 2024 is that quantum computing made it a big step forward. They were actually able to solve a an algorithm that would take traditional computers like trillions of years to solve, and they did it in like 5 minutes. So that's a major step forward for quantum computing. So we may see more coming with that, but that's really cool. Quantum computing has been a theoretical possibility for many years now. So it's kind of like cold fusion. It's one of those technologies you hear about on the fringe, but we're not there yet. And
Hmm.
quantum computing is starting to make some steps forward. So we may see it in our lifetime yet.
Yeah, I don't think it's quite ready for prime time as far as being just a normal part of how we do computing in the industry. But man, when they finally make it approachable, when they finally make it affordable, and when they finally make it something we can actually do, it it will absolutely be the biggest like revolution in our industry ever.
Yep,
Absolutely, it's going to upend so much for sure, and all of the limitations we thought we had before,
out the
just
window.
throw them out the window. They're
Yep,
done. And, I mean, we already seen how the cryptography stuff is. Oh, it's not feasible to crack this password or whatever. Like, come on. Like, it takes like a tenth of a second to do it now, where it would have taken years. Like you said, like it would take
right.
years to do
And
it in the
and
past.
that's one of the biggest problems with moving to quantum computing is that it is going to break every security model that we currently have. Right? Every password is going to be password protection is going to be a thing of the past because there you won't be able to create a password that a quantum computer can't bust in seconds. Right?
Right. Exactly. Yeah, you have to use other throttling techniques of like the where you're trying out the password.
Right.
Timeouts and all that kind of stuff to slow it down.
You may even see like geofencing for passwords, where if you're trying to log in from a certain location, it knows that
Hmm.
okay, yes, you're in the right location to do this. So we can so you may have multi-factor authentications being more prevalent in where we're thinking outside the box on security as to what are our security gates that we're using, what can we use, things like facial recognition or fingerprinting, uh, to say, without the fingerprint and your password and you know a uh, a geotag or something like that, you're not getting in. So with these technologies, there's some trends that we're actually starting to talk about for the next year. One of those things being the uses of AI. We've talked about for AI for health and fitness, but there's also this this possibility that in this next year we're looking at probably a make it or break it for AI because of its cost of implementation. There's a lot of in order to stand up these language models and the processing power that AI requires, there's a high cost of entry. And with those expenses, if we can't find monetary value in those, we may see AI start to fade away, um, because of that. Or you're going to find it, or it's going to be something like the the chip industry where we're going to have some major players and everybody's going to get routed through those players, and it's going to be like another utility type company because they're the only ones big enough to be able to support the needs of AI. So like your
Yeah,
Chat GPTs or you
yeah.
know your Apples and Googles.
I think in some respects, 2024 AI already hit a wall, and I think we've talked about this personally about I think AI is kind of entering into that trough of disillusionment already. That's not to say that it's going anywhere. I think that now people are aware of it. Like I said, they're starting to use it in new domains and applying it to unique and innovative ways. I think that's fantastic. I think it's just people are they're starting to they're not seeing the ROI. They're not seeing the big aha moment when it comes. And then I'm talking primarily with generative AI because everybody's like, "Oh, I see Chat GPT. I want that to run my business or whatever." Right? So that is not paying off. But I do think. And that's the thing that's primarily very expensive, right? The tokenization and all of that sort of stuff. That it's hugely expensive to run your own model and all of the tokens and all of that. Generating tokens is very expensive. So that probably will be cost prohibitive and diminish a little bit. But I do think general or legacy or traditional AI will be around for a long time, and I am glad that I think it will be used in many more places.
Yeah, I see it being used more specifically as a tool or add-on feature to existing technologies that we have instead of standalone technology solutions. Possibly in the assistant space, we may see some growth as AI suggested things. I don't think we're looking at career replacement for anybody uh, being replaced by an AI. It's just not there yet. It may never be there, but as a power tool, I think it's going. We're going to see great uses of it. Like you were saying, I think it's going to be around for a long, long time, and it's going to be one of those tools that you get really good at using, kind of like the search engine was. If your Google foo is good, you can find answers on the internet really quickly, and um, it's going to be the same with AI. If you're good at prompt writing, you're going to be able to have AI help you out tremendously in whatever business you're in. Which
Yeah, it'll
which
be
comes
interesting
to
to see
my next
about.
point about it is you're gonna see more of that domain specific
Hmm.
AI usage, right? So it's like, yeah, we've augmented our AI model with these domain specific knowledge bases and fed those into it so that we can get more specific accurate answers in our area, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, and we're already kind of doing fine tuning, domain specific fine tuning on these base models. I think the more likely that we may see is more kind of like a chaining, right? So you're going to maybe use a base language model that understands, the actual language, the natural language, understands it very well, and nuances and connotations and all of that, because of the high dimensionality vector space that it operates in. It can see patterns and connections that we don't. But then that might, make sense of natural language for you and feed into a more domain specific, like solve a very specific problem, and you're kind of having to choose, okay, send it over to this other, AI based solution that can take that and do something with it.
So I'm going to go just through a couple of the other ones that we marked as trends and predictions for the next year. More server side rendering. That's coming back. The pendulum swinging back towards server side rendering. We may see a change from the push for EVs, electric vehicles, back to ICE or uh, internal combustion engine vehicles, just because of certain trade restrictions that may be happening with China. We got to wait and kind of see what happens there, but we may see a trend back towards uh, our gas vehicles. The Who knows what's going to happen with this TikTok ban?
Mm.
This could open up some possible possible technology spaces in the U.S. for uh, people looking for work. We could see growth in crypto. There's rumors of legislation and regulation coming in for cryptocurrencies, and we could see some changes in the way we use crypto. Also, we talked about drones. There's a couple different drone things that are on the radar. One is bans on certain types of drones, and also, you mentioned you saw something interesting a drone was doing somewhere.
Yeah. I think yeah, I mean, like you're saying, like drone bans. I think what we're seeing going on, like the New Jersey situation, probably going to be something resulting out of that, where there's some a little more scrutiny over what types of drones can be used where and how and all that. So that'll be interesting to see how that pans out. Drone deliveries, I've noticed this year. It seems like this has been kind of where they're starting to make those things actually a reality. We've always been hearing about, like, oh, we have this drone that can, Amazon's going to have drones that just drop packages off at your house, which they are starting to actually do these things. I went to a volleyball game on the University of Kentucky campus a month or so ago, and I get out in the parking lot, and I'm paying for my parking there in the parking lot, and all of a sudden this little robot goes driving by. They've got like these robots on campus delivering goods to the students in their dorm rooms. So it's a little Wally looking thing that's just kind of rolling itself along. Yeah, so that I think is going to be kind of cool to start to see some innovation there. Although, maybe kind of wish we'd get up off our butts and go get our pizza ourselves, or whatever we're wanting, our Taco Bell or whatever it is.
You know, that makes me think about like the Domino's. What was it? It was like the hot van or whatever that they had.
Mm,
But yeah,
yeah.
it's like
Well, there was like, I think there was at one time I don't even remember who I was talking to about this. There was the kind of this vision where, instead of, you think about the Amazon truck in your neighborhood, they drive from house to house to house, and they have to do this. Whereas in the future, maybe it would be like it drives just into your neighborhood, the top opens up, and all this little swarm of drones goes out and and delivers to all the packages, and then they all come back to the mothership, and it drives on.
yeah,
It'd be kind of cool.
yeah.
Um, Might be fun.
One of the growth spaces that we're expecting to see more of is the platform engineering space. I know we at Columbity have embraced the platform engineering. We have a whole practice dedicated to it, and we're leaning into that, expecting growth in that space as well as the AI. We have a AI practice as well, that we're leaning into to get ourselves aware and start thinking about different ways of using AI. So those are a couple things to be looking towards, is the return of platform engineering, as I like to call it, because we've been doing platform engineering for a long time, and then it got uncool to be a platform engineer. Now it's becoming cool again. Everything's a platform. Will be one of the things that I'm interested in seeing is improvements in VR. So there are advancements in screen technologies that are making like lightweight VR type glasses instead of the big headsets. Uh, in bringing the lighter weight gear into play, I think makes it more accessible. Um, so I think that'll be interesting. It'll be also interesting to see how President-elect Trump will impact technology. I mean, we saw Elon by his side a lot during his campaign, and there's been mention that he's talked with a bunch of different major technology leaders in the space. So there may be a more tech-friendly presidency, and that may impact kind of what we see. Maybe there'll be like technology grants and things like that that'll help push the boundary of certain technologies forward. So that might be on the horizon as well. But it's all speculation right now. Nobody knows for sure what's going to happen, but it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, with the
um,
new, cabinet or whatever, there, you're going to see different approaches to different things. So it'll be an interesting year to see how things unfold, even in tech, right? As you said, all the
yeah,
tech leaders are kind of swarming themselves down to
yep,
Mar-a-Lago, which is interesting in and of itself. But
right.
yeah, so that it will be interesting to see how that impacts
And
our industry.
I heard mention somewhere of the possibility of a technology czar, right? Uh,
Okay.
Kind of like a border czar, when in his last go around. Then speculation that Elon might be the technology
Mm.
czar, right? So all speculation, but we'll see. That'll be
He's going to be
interesting to follow
busy
that.
shutting down all the government agencies, though.
Right,
He'll have to
right.
pick somebody else.
Yeah. Um, so that kind of brings us to the end of the year.
Yeah.
So James, over the holidays, are you doing anything tech related over the holidays?
I'll try to probably get some reading in, but the one thing I'd like to do is catch up on my Advent of Code. I don't know if those of you aren't familiar. The Every year it's kind of a puzzle thing, right? So some people do use it as a competition. It's a speed thing. So the people who get done with the puzzles fastest get the most points and stuff. So that's cool. But I like it because it's day to day coding in the business world. We don't really have to kind of use any of those advanced algorithms. Like you're not thinking about graphs and linear programming or any of those sort of things. And bound branch and bound type stuff. You're not doing any of that in your day to day coding. But the problems that we get through the advent of code, you kind of have to resurrect some of those neurons that you learned back in the day and have to apply that, which is kind of fun. So I'm going to be catching up on that. I think I'm only through like day 15 or something right now. I got to catch up a little bit and hopefully get all the way through 25.
Gotcha. Oh, I see. So it's like
Mm-hmm.
an advent calendar of different problems to try and solve.
Yeah, so every day they release a new problem, and there's usually a two-parter, right? So it's not usually, it is, it's two. So you can get 2 stars per day, so you can get 50 stars total. So you'll get a part one. You have to basically input. You have to use. I mean, I guess you could brute force it and figure it out with pencil and paper if you wanted, but it's a little easier to just write a little code to crunch the numbers or whatever you're doing, and then you type in what your code gave the answer. And everybody's input is unique. So my input, I can publish that, which I do on my GitHub, and it's not going to be the same answer for everyone. So that's kind of a nice aspect of it. Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's fun.
I may do a little robo coding over the holidays. I actually have to reach out to our person that's going to be running our in-house RoboCode competition to see if we're still planning on doing something over the holidays for that. So those of you that may not know, RoboCode is basically you program a robot to destroy other robots in a digital arena, and it's kind of a last robot standing type of competition, and you go through several rounds and different points. So, and there's all kinds of like engineering strategies and things, like you can detect when other people are shooting at you and where bullets are and how fast they're moving and all that kind of stuff. So it's something a little bit fun to do, especially if you're a mathlete, because there's a lot of math involved with angles and velocities and that kind of thing. But that's
Sines
a
and
fun thing.
cosines and
Yep,
fun stuff. Yeah.
it's a fun little thing, and that's free to check out too if you go search up RoboCode. It's been around for quite a while.
Okay.
I think the last time I did it was, I want to say like 10 years ago was the first RoboCode competition that I participated in.
That sounds fun.
Yeah. Some other things that are coming up, we now have a / mailbag. So if you have thoughts, ideas, or episodes you'd like to hear, drop us a line at the / at Caliberty.com. That's the / all one word at Caliberty, CALLIBRITY.com. And we'd love to hear from you on different things. And we may even have other ways for listeners to interact with us next year. We're still batting around some ideas on how to get you guys more involved on the podcast. Do you have any closing thoughts for the year, James?
No, I was just thinking, and none of the songs will be stuck in my head all dang day. But as you were spelling out Caliberty, and I have to do that a lot, but I was thinking about that stupid song. It's stupid. It's okay. But my kids, the Hot to Go, HOTTOG. You know that one? I was like, can we make like spelling Caliberty along with that song? Maybe I don't know. I'll figure it out. I'll debut that next year.
So that may be a task for my song generative AI.
Okay. All right, let's do that. See if you can
that's
spell
where
Caliberty to the song.
That's where our lightning round jingle came from. So
maybe ChatGPT can do that, but all it does is spit out MIDI notes or whatever and says,
yeah,
let's do a MIDI player. I wish it would actually play a song.
So one of the songs I did using AI, I actually used ChatGPT to give me lyrics, massaged the lyrics through ChatGPT, and then plugged them into my song generative AI as the lyrics. Like, okay, put a song around these lyrics, and it did, and it turned out pretty good.
Nice.
That concludes this episode of the / where we lean into the future of IT. Make sure you subscribe to this podcast for future episodes. I'd like to thank my beautiful co-host, James Carman, for a wonderful 2024. Looking forward to working with you more in 2025. And who knows what kind of episodes we'll come up with. So stay tuned. Drop us a line at the / at Caliberty.com if you have thoughts, ideas, or things you want to hear from us. And I'd also like to thank our production team. Happy holidays, everyone. I'm Aaron Chesney. Thank you, and stay curious.